Welcome to this edition of At the Mic. I'm your host, Keith Malinak. This week's guest is Steve Krakauer. Steve is a part of the team that brings you the Megyn Kelly Show, and he does so much more. We talk about all of it in just a moment. All right, gang, tax day is less than a month away. I'm sorry that I keep reminding you, but the good folks at American Pride Roasters Coffee are taking the opportunity to remind you to try their Burr Hamilton blend. It's in honor of America's first Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton. Remember, he died in that famous duel on a July morning in New Jersey back in 1804. So while that's one of the more shocking moments in our nation's history, it's also the namesake of an APR favorite, a breakfast blend with blueberry and donut flavors from Central and South American coffee beans that are brewed to perfection for your morning breakfast routine or even as a dessert coffee. I think you should try it. It's seriously an excellent blend. And when you head over to aprcoffee.com, purchase at least 2 pounds of coffee and use the offer code ATM. It stands for At the Mic, and that's in the special instructions section there at checkout. You're going to get a free bag of the Reagan A Time for Choosing blend, which is a $10 value for free. Get over to aprcoffee.com today. Use offer code ATM and drink up.
You're listening to At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production.
Steve Krakauer is my guest for this week's edition of At the Mic. He's part of the team, brings you the Megyn Kelly Show, another podcast you need to be listening to. Well, in addition to those duties, Steve keeps an eye on the media. He's a media watchdog through his Fourth Watch newsletter and his podcast that keeps us all informed. In our conversation, he tells us stories about his time as an NBC page. Yeah, he was hanging out with the Saturday Night Live crew all the time. He enlightens us on the joys of fantasy golf, and we discussed the joys of fatherhood as well. The conversation starts right now on At the Mic. Steve and I worked together at the Blaze way back when. You have gone on to bigger and better things since then. You are a busy man. Would you please just lay out all the stuff that you've got your hands on, man?
Wow, what an intro! This is different because normally I'm on the other side of the mic at the mic. Yeah, so the main my day job, my main job is I'm the executive producer of Megyn Kelly's podcast, the Megyn Kelly Show, which launched in September, and really, we're just kind of getting started with that, but more to come on that. That's been really great and
cool.
Exciting, getting a chance to work with her, who I've known for about a dozen years, and that's the main job. But then also I've got Fourth Watch, which is I launched that in about December of 2019, so a little over a year ago. And it started as a newsletter, approximately 3 times a week, free newsletter that covers the media. And I've been writing that, really trying to, call on my experience that I had in various, places in the media, at the Blaze and at CNN previously.
You've been everywhere.
So we can talk about that. Yeah.
Mediaite.
Mediaite, right? Started Mediaite. So, and then really, I've been in Texas now for 7 years, moved down as part of a job with the Blaze, and being outside of the media, particularly in the last 4 years during the Trump era, has kind of, I think, clarified some things. And so that's really what the voice I've tried to use in Fourth Watch, and launched a podcast through that in September as well. And that's it. Occasionally write a column for The Hill, but other than that, that's the game.
That's plenty to have on your plate at one time. So, I mean, do you ever sleep, considering all the stuff that you have going on?
I do, yeah. I try to sleep. I've got a 4-year-old,
yeah,
and so yeah, we try to keep to some sort of a schedule there, and no, look, I think definitely the Fourth Watch newsletter thing is something that really started almost as like a hobby, and it's something that I do. I'll occasionally take a night where I'm like, all right, Jack goes to bed, and my wife Megan goes to bed, and I'm like, all right, here I'm going to throw out 2 hours and just kind of put some things to paper there, and I like it. I mean, it's a weird hobby, covering the media, especially, but I really do. When I started Fourth Watch, I did it because I love the media and I want it to be better, and that's really kind of the place where I go from. And so, it pains me over the last few years to see kind of what's become of it. But that's a perception of it. For me, is like, I love it. I want to try to help it if I can in any little part there. So
many directions I want to go here, but I'll get to all of them Trust me, Steve. We've got time.
All right.
No, so you went to Syracuse.
I did.
Did you
Yeah.
study broadcasting and media there?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I figured as much just because it's known for that.
I did, yeah. I was like this really sort of, I guess in some ways like the what I wanted to be when I grew up. As soon as I kind of knew it, maybe in like 9th grade, 8th grade, was a journalist. And I went to like journalism summer camp in high school. This thing at Northwestern University.
So you were a nerd.
I was, yeah. I was a media nerd from way back in the
Wow.
day. But yeah, no, I always wanted to go. Actually, really wanted to go to Northwestern because I went to that summer camp and didn't get in there. But also really wanted to do Newhouse School, broadcast journalism, and did that. I was a broadcast journalist. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I thought, do I go and there were kind of two paths when you graduate from Syracuse in that capacity. You could either go and be a reporter in like Fargo, North Dakota, and work your way up every couple years and try to move up, or you start at like the bottom of the totem pole in some giant company like a Fox or an NBC, which is what I ultimately ended up doing. But yeah, broadcast journalism there. I was I minored in political science and African American studies, and yeah.
So how old are you right now?
I'm 36, about to do 37.
So you're 36. When was this journalism camp then?
Journalism camp was like 2000, I want to say. Yeah.
I was just trying to get an idea of what the media landscape looked like when you were really getting into it.
Yeah, well, I graduated in 2006, and it was amazing to me how quickly the media changed because I went back. I do have a lot of love for Syracuse. I would go back. I wrote columns for the school paper, and kept in touch with a lot of the professors there. So I went back, and I was pleasantly surprised to see, when I was there was not a single course or even, class for one time that was about digital media in any capacity.
Even that late.
Yeah. I joined Facebook when I was in college, but it was not a media property. Twitter didn't exist. Instagram didn't exist. So, there really was not like, now there's majors for, digital journalism. There's social media classes and those sorts of things. I edited, I would edit, packages with tape. It was not even digital editing that I was doing. I was doing, the little rewind and fast forward.
I did that too, but it was a lot sooner than yours. And you're saying that even in the 2000s?
2005, 2006,
Golly.
I graduated without any real, situation there. So, I ended up, my first real job in journalism was working for a website called TV Newser. And through that, I think Twitter launched in like 2007. We joined it in 2008, pretty early on. And that ended up kind of leading a different trajectory, I think, for my career. But yeah, that did not even exist, 15 years ago, which is crazy.
Wow. And that is crazy to think that. It's also crazy to think that they actually have courses now based on that.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea. Or majors, you say?
Yeah, well, you can major in digital journalism.
Wow.
In fact, I think, they used to have print journalism, magazine journalism. Those are completely gone. You can't actually major in them. You just can major in, I think it's what's called digital journalism, which I guess makes sense. But yeah, it's a totally, the entire landscape is completely different in a very short amount of time.
Wow. So you grew up a little bit, you say, in Maryland, a little bit in Wisconsin, but primarily in New Jersey.
Yes.
Secaucus is where you were born.
Born in Secaucus, yeah.
So was it, what got you out of New Jersey? The fact that college took you to Syracuse and then, in other words, did you want to stay up in, because if you're already there, this is what I'm thinking right now. You're in New Jersey. You're within a commute of New York City. You're a media guy. You've got this degree. So then did you focus on, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to be there. Is that where it happened?
Yeah, I graduated college 2006. I applied to 100 jobs, something like that. All over the country. And I really, I think, if things went a different way and rolled the dice a different way, I could have ended up, I had jobs in Florida that I was looking at, in Las Vegas, and in California. I was very open-minded to go wherever. Ultimately, I did get a job at first at Fox News as a production assistant working overnights and weekends. And I did that for a couple of months before I ended up getting a job in the NBC Page program, which is like the very bottom of the ladder in NBC, but it was a great year. And that's where, I ended up moving into New New York City and starting the career that way. But yeah, was very open-minded. I mean, it's funny about it is, I really never left the East Coast until I ended up moving down to Texas, and have been here ever since in 2014. But
it's better here, right?
It is. I'm an adopted Texan now.
Yeah.
No, I love the East Coast too. But I will say quality of life, and actually, I married a Texan also, who I met in New York City.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Okay, where did y'all meet then?
We met at CNN in New York. So
is she in media too then?
She is. Yeah, yeah. So Megyn is a publicist, in PR, and she was living in LA and worked for an agency where one of her clients was Piers Morgan, and she became very close with Piers. And when he got the CNN job, in fact, so I was a media reporter, and I kind of thought that, and there were other people doing it, but at the time there really wasn't a lot of like emphasis from the CNN, MSNBC, and Foxes of the world on what was happening on websites and on social media. And so I had a meeting, like an off-the-record meeting with Piers, and Megyn was there, and I ended up kind of pitching myself to him as, hey, I could, your show's going to be on for an hour every day, 23 hours a day. What else is happening with Piers Morgan tonight? I can kind of be that, I can help that, build that audience, and I really bought into it. But I ended up meeting her there, meeting her through the show.
Were you pitching to Piers and to Megyn at the same time?
I was a little distracted by Megyn. No, but yeah, no, we ended up, so she wasn't even working at CNN at the time there. I obviously wasn't, but we started working together and immediately started dating and ended up getting married. Piers was at our wedding, and then she is originally though from Houston, and we moved down to Texas for my job, but stayed.
How ironic.
And yeah.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you guys got down here.
That's right.
And you mentioned Jack.
Yes.
He's 4 years old. How fun is it being a dad?
I love it. It's I kind of knew I was going to love it. But I have to say, it helps give some perspective, I would say. He just doesn't care at all, about anything that's happening in, Twitter or, in the news world. And it's very, it gives perspective there, I think. It's so important to see that what really matters. I think that's been one of the biggest things.
Yeah, having kids will definitely change your perspective.
Right.
Yeah, and in fact, I have a cousin who said that very same thing. I haven't heard that until right now when you said how perspective.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing when you have kids.
Right.
Is now you can see the world from a whole different angle, and you realize that the world is actually it's worse in some degree because now you feel it through the lens of, oh my gosh, my kid is going to grow up to who knows what.
Yeah.
If it's this crazy now. But at the same time, you have those moments where you can just step back. And like you said, Jack is unaware of the insanity of the world.
Right.
I want to go hang out with Jack for a while.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you know what? I got to say, I'm optimistic just in general. Like I really, one of the things like I try to like operate from in all the professional capacities, but certainly from the personal one is like, I believe strongly in like, America and Americans. And, I think that he's got the right idea. Like, it's sort of this, optimism, I think, about it, and I think that's kind of, that's where I when I get pessimistic, I try to look at him and be like, you're right. We'll be all right. Yeah.
Well, it's good to stay distracted in different areas, though. So you mentioned that you probably spend too much time on Twitter.
Yeah.
You and me both. But I love this. You participate in fantasy golf.
Yeah.
Which I've never really taken the time to look at this, but DraftKings does a fantasy golf thing too.
Yeah, so I guess, they do, well, right. So, I mean, DraftKings, they've got like, NFL stuff.
Right, I'm aware of that stuff. I guess whenever I've gone to DraftKings, I guess I'm just so focused that I don't even pay attention to anything else on the site. I've never seen there's golf available.
Oh yeah. Golf's my favorite. I feel like older I feel old when I talk about how much I enjoy golf and watching it and I guess
Masters
betting on
is
it.
must watch TV.
It's the best. I love it. And I love like. So
But I'm trying to figure out.
Now we're getting deep into like fantasy sports. But
here's the thing. I want you to explain to me how fantasy golf works.
So it's the simplest of them. You pick 6 golfers, and basically how they do. You get points based on how many birdies or whatever. But what's fun about it is a lot of times with these DraftKings things, everything is so fast, right? It's over in a few hours or a day. You really get 4 days of excitement out of it. You put $3 in, and you really can get your money's worth.
Yeah.
And also there's obviously a chance of winning a lot, but it's fun. And I got Jack into golf a lot too. He knows Tony and Tiger and Rory and all that. It's just like I don't know. I there's a purity to golf that I just love. It's the kind of thing where like I will never be a good baseball player or basketball player, and I probably will never be a good golfer. But I could hit a shot like that one time out of 1,000,
right.
and you get and I have, and you get that feeling like if I could just do this every time, and I can. But that's what I love about golf is it's like there's a flattening to it. Like it feels like, man, I could do this one time,
right.
maybe, right?
But not when the camera's on.
No,
not in a
definitely.
tournament. Not when Tiger's in my group. Right. Exactly.
No,
I think I've had exactly one shot, like you just said, in my entire life of playing golf since I was 12.
Nice.
So I got you. Yeah. I'm actually going to have to go and look for fantasy golf now
fun,
on
man.
DraftKings. And I'm a fantasy football guy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know there's fantasy baseball and hockey and stuff. I could never get into those fantasy sports that require you to pay attention, throughout the week
Right.
and who's playing when, all stuff. I can focus on one Sunday at a time with fantasy football.
Football, yeah.
And in fact, I'm the commissioner of our league, so I'm really involved in that stuff. And I haven't even known about fantasy golf, but now I'm sitting here and I want to actually let's just kill the interview right now so I can go and check out DraftKings fantasy.
Do it for the Masters. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So with you and Megyn and Jack, you have a boxer, little dog named Lexi. Dogs are the greatest,
They are.
Like seriously, I grew up just with cats. And it wasn't until an adult, 8 years ago, really, that I owned my first dog. We have 2 now. And it's like opened up a whole new world to me that I feel it's embarrassing that I really didn't have dogs.
Listen, it's funny. I'm the exact same way. I grew up with a cat, never had a dog, and Lexi was my first dog. Megan's had dogs her whole life, lots of dogs, and it's and she tells me there's sort of Lexi is we treated her kind of like a human, and she embraced that, and so there is kind of a humanness to it. It's a little bit weird, but I mean she's the best. Dogs are the best.
I mean, you're absolutely right. It's almost like when you're raising kids too. If you don't baby talk to them, if you just treat them like people, then they'll surprise you, and then one day you're like, wow, you're a human.
Right.
Now, I mean, with the dogs, it's a little different, but I know what you mean as far as gestures and stuff like that. And like my oldest dog just reads my mind.
Yeah.
He knows every move I'm going to make before I know it. It's just, I'm not going to make this the Keith Talks About Tanner hour, but I'm just saying they're fascinating creatures and we don't deserve them.
I know. Like total loyalty. I mean, loves it. But at the same time, like she's very sensitive. Like gets her feelings hurt, and you can tell it, and you try to cheer her up. And it's fun and occasionally exhausting to keep Lexi happy.
Right. And I don't know if this has happened with Jack or anything like that, but in our house we have 3 children, and I swear Tanner knows when one of them is not doing right, feeling right, whether they're just sick, whether they're struggling with something in school or what. That dog knows, and that's the bed he spends the night in. It's
that's
fascinating.
So funny.
It is really weird.
Yeah, we're not there. How old are your kids?
Let's see. I have one that just turned 18.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have one that is 15, and I have one that just turned 13.
Okay, got it. That's nice. All right.
I just thought of that. I am the father of 3 teenagers all at the same time. My goodness.
That's impressive.
Pray for me.
Impressive. You're doing great. I await that day. Right now I need Lexi to go sleep with Jack. I think that would be a nice thing.
Yeah.
He's not ready for that yet.
Absolutely.
But,
So you like to listen to the Chill Channel on Sirius XM.
I love the bio you do. I did this a long time ago, and it's funny now. You're busting out. No, it's true.
And let's set this up. Steve and I have been trying to coordinate this interview literally for it's got to be half a year.
Yeah, about
Seriously.
6 months, I think.
Something
I think that's true.
always happens, whether there's a schedule
this
conflict.
year, man, you know?
I mean, it's
Yeah.
2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's either a schedule conflict or I got COVID or I've got any myriad of surgeries. So anyway, we finally got this to happen. And I love it when the guest has no recollection of filling out this email when so much time passes from the email
I
to
know.
the interview.
That's a good way to do it. Yes, chill. Yeah, Channel 53 on Sirius XM. I discovered, I think probably when we moved to Texas. It's the best. I love like there. It's a lot of times it's like popular songs that are remixed into like a more chilled out but like exciting version of it. If you listen to the Fourth Watch podcast, first plug of our podcast here,
Please do.
You will find one of my favorite chill artists who we worked out a deal and I got him as the theme music. Someone named Super Duper. Yeah, I mean it's just it's cool. I recommend it to everyone. People that don't think that they would necessarily be into like basically like down tempo house music find themselves listening to it.
This sounds like, and I don't know this because I haven't checked out Chill.
Okay.
But this sounds like my mom and stepdad used to live in Phoenix, and the one channel that we could all agree on was, and it's not like this anymore in Phoenix, KYOT, Coyote. It was called Smooth Jazz.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
I don't know if it's similar to
So
Chill.
what I would describe it as maybe like the 21st century smooth jazz in a way, like because it feels very like new and of this moment, but it's also like you could just kind of chill out to it.
I'm gonna go check this out because I need some chill in my life.
I was gonna say it's a perfect 2020 soundtrack.
Yeah,
it's chill.
it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were an NBC page.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of fun stories. I don't know how many of them you can tell, but
tell
you're
some,
welcome to tell as many as you like.
Well,
that
okay.
you experienced while you were there.
Yeah. So I mean, just to give people, if anyone has watched 30 Rock, which used to be everyone watched 30 Rock, and now it's like it's been out, and so but Kenneth the Page was a character on there. He wore this horrible like blue blazer and peacock tie, and that literally was the uniform that all the Pages wore. And you basically did two things. You did studio tours. So you would get, we had a script and we had you and another partner. It was an hour of, 30 tourists that you brought around to all the different NBC studios, and you told all the history, and I could probably recite half of it. We played all these like fun games of like trying to get the other page to say a word during it. It was like we had our own ways of doing it, but I did over 500 studio tours in a year. And then the other thing you did was basically just like very menial tasks. But in cool settings, I guess. Like I worked for Conan O'Brien's show as Paige, which my job was essentially like, doing whatever little task there was, stocking fridges and things, but also bringing the guests from their car to their studio, to the dressing room and back, right? So you got to meet a lot of people.
Did Conan ever drag you on camera or anything? For
no,
a bit, or?
I never did with Conan. I was never on.
It's probably a good thing.
I know.
It's been very embarrassing.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's funny, usually like the people that were like pages on that show were actually actors. They had like fake pages as the guests. But no, we got to meet like lots of celebrities and some funny stories there. I remember Jeff Goldblum. One time I brought him in, and I think Jeff Goldblum's hilarious, but he was exactly like as you would expect. Like he walked into 30 Rock and he just starts like sniffing, and he goes, "What is that smell? What is that smell?" And he goes, "Come with me. Come here. Let's go look. Let's go smell things."
No.
And we started smelling things, and eventually he thought it was like some cleaning supply that he really enjoyed. Anyway, so it was like, so there was that.
That sounds like his Disney Plus show, actually.
Jeff Goldblum smells stuff.
Yeah, it does.
And then the other aspect of the job was the big like marquee thing you did was work for SNL. And SNL they did a rehearsal show, and then they did the live show. Live show ended at 1 a.m. There'd be an after party, and then there was an after party at 3 a.m. that, the bars closed at 3, but there was always one location. You needed a secret password to get in. And
is it always the same one?
No, it was always different,
boy.
and it was always at a different location. And one of the pages would get the secret password, and they'd send it to everyone else, and we could go to the after party from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. with the cast and any other celebrities that showed up. Right. And man, it was a good time though, because no one was allowed to leave the bar. And so you'd get like Kenan Thompson there smoking weed right in the middle of this bar, and it was that was like the one perk of it for sure. But
And what years was this?
so this was like 2007 to 2006 to 2007.
Okay.
So I was right out of college, and the fun of it, honestly, though, in the serious capacity, is like there was always 50 pages at any given time. I stayed there for a year, so I ended up working with about 100 people. Everyone, 99% of the people was between 22 and 24, super hungry, all interested in working in the media. And I look back now and I look, now at what they're doing. I mean, these are people that are spread out across the industry, lots of, on-air talent, executives. You get this like interesting network of people that, you worked with as essentially everyone's first job. And there was like a little backbiting, and there was, everyone was like really, they were friendly, but they were also like wanted to kind of, beat you for that big assignment.
Right. So is that something that would show up on like a LinkedIn entry? Yeah. It sounds like
NBC page program. And there are like little group, email lists that we occasionally will have, like little reunions. It's been a little while, probably a couple of years, but yeah, it was a great entry into the business, and honestly, it helped, I think, just kind of continue the rest of the career.
Yeah. Are you going to tell us about any drunken late night stories about Heather Graham?
Heather Graham, okay.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Well, so yeah, there were a couple of ones there. Heather Graham, another one that was like, it's always good when the celebrity, like the way you think that they are is going to be like how they are. And yeah, like totally, sort of nice but spacey. So she ended up, it was raining. And this was actually, yeah. So she was like, I think we were leaving the party, and she asked me, I don't know if she thought I was working there or what. I mean, I wasn't in my page uniform, but something about like umbrellas. And she was like, isn't it funny about umbrellas? Like whenever you need an umbrella, you never have it, but whenever you don't need an umbrella, you have. And I mean, just rambling on about umbrellas.
I mean, that's
kind of true.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
So that's late night wisdom with Heather Graham.
I know. Yeah. It's and there were a few of it. I mean, and it was just weird. Like you'd walk in, and all of a sudden, like you'd be at the bar waiting for a drink, and there's Drew Barrymore and Cameron Diaz standing at the bar next to you, and it's just it was a good time. It was funny, and yeah, it was the fun of like, that was the one, you work like 60-hour weeks getting paid nothing, and then you get like on that Saturday night you're up until 6 a.m. with like some celebrities. So that was your perk.
That's really cool. So you are a black diamond skier, but what's the nearest black diamond trail to New Jersey, out of curiosity? Any idea?
Well, there were black diamonds like I think there actually might be in New Jersey, but more like really? Pennsylvania. You could probably get like drive an hour and get there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Poconos and stuff. But those were not like real black diamonds. Those were pretty easy black diamonds. Then you go to we would go to Colorado and do that. And we skied last year and went to Breckenridge and did some black diamonds. It's been a long time. I feel like we've gone from, Megyn's not a big skier, so we're more warm weather or vacationing now. Although I'd love to get back out there, and Jack tried it, and he was into it. So
a little bunny slope action.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
Yeah.
He wants to go back.
Very
so.
good. Magic tricks, that's something you're good at, or not so much?
Yeah. Talk about, so I did journalism summer camp, but I also did magic summer camp.
Oh, you did a summer camp just for magic?
So okay, so
when you were a kid, see, that's pretty cool, man. You did these themed camps. Mine were just, a week of, riding horses and playing, capture the flag.
Right.
Yours actually had purpose.
Learning magic tricks, I guess some purpose.
Well, I mean, you got the journalism one, you got the magic show.
The journalism had some purpose. So I sleepaway camp, right? And so I did for 5 years. It was like this sports and arts camp essentially, but they had like some of the weird ones, right? So I did like juggling or something, and you basically spend 3 weeks, an hour a day learning how to juggle. And I did magic a bunch of years, and my friends in college in particular always made fun of me because there's like certain tricks I've been able to keep, I still can do.
But they know them. right? And so
yeah, they generally know. I feel like there's one I could probably still get people with. It's
That's cool.
honestly, all magic tricks are not all magic tricks, but like card tricks are all based around like one of three moves essentially, right?
Ooh, wait, really?
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't want to ruin.
Yeah, no,
ruin
hold on a second. Spoiler alert. If I get him to tell us the magic tricks here, the behind the scenes.
The magicians are gonna come after me. Yeah,
skip ahead a couple of minutes here. Wait, what are these tell me the three moves.
Well, there's a move essentially like where you are you draw people to a certain card that you do a trick of pulling a card from the top and then it shows up wherever you want it to be, and it's a literal move that you have to learn how to do, and then once you can do that in a dozen different kinds of tricks, and they all look different to the average person, but they're all essentially the same move, just done slightly differently. So I'd always, my friends would make fun of me, but I actually, I can do it. I can entertain Jack with some magic tricks occasionally. That's my move.
Fun.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, just for the record, I only heard one of three. What are the other two things?
Well, there's one like where you've got a card like turned upside down, like on the bottom of the deck or something.
Okay,
and if you move your hands in a certain way, you kind of sleight of hand, you can make the deck look like it's the opposite way, right? Because you've got essentially like the back of the card, but on both sides of it. And so then if you can do that, and then if you can then get the card back up the right way, let's say someone puts their card back into the deck, that card will be upside down, right? And they'll think they didn't, how did that happen? My card's the only one upside down, but actually your card plus the other card that I was pretending that was upside down was not. So,
nice.
Little things like that help to solve it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's not a third one?
I'm trying to think of the third one. It's been so long.
All right.
I forgot the third.
I'm sorry. I don't let things go, man.
I can't reveal the third magic trick that I don't remember.
There you go. Okay, so tell us about your earliest memory with your grandfather, right?
My grandfather on my dad's side died when I was 6. So I don't remember much with him, and but I always remember. So he was in a wheelchair from as long as I remember, and I remember going down to Florida. They lived in Florida, and watching a TV show with him that was like that. My memory of it was about a robot dog. And I've always like looked up like what is some show from 30 years ago that had a robot dog in it, and I don't 100% know what it is.
So it wasn't the Jetsons, huh?
No, it was I remember it being like a dog that looked kind of like a German Shepherd, like a real dog, but it was like a robo of some kind, and I don't remember what it was. But anyway, I remember sitting with him and really enjoying like spending that time with him. It's just me and him, watching this. I think he was in bed, and I was like sitting on the bed. And it was one of my few memories I have with him, before he died.
Well, it's cool that you have that something,
yeah.
Right? You have met a lot of people in your life that you consider positive impacts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
For sure. Yeah.
Tell us about some of them. I mean, obviously, you list your wife as number one. Megyn, I want to make sure that you heard that.
Number one.
Yep, she's
of course.
One. But who's Christina Robinson and Bart Feder?
Krista Robinson, Bart Feder, yeah. Both from CNN. Both, I would say, when I left, I worked at TV Newser, I worked at Mediaite. I left, I worked for Piers Morgan's show. And, I still was, I don't want to say like fairly down the totem pole on, at CNN there, but I sort of was. And I got promoted about a year into my time there, and really that just changed the trajectory, I think, of my career, and it happened. I mean, obviously, like everything, it takes some luck and it takes some of what the work you've done and the hard work you put in, but it couldn't have happened without Krista and Bart, who was my immediate boss once I got hired in that new role, and Krista, who I've known forever, and I keep in touch with both of them still, but I knew she basically headed publicity. She was actually Megyn's boss. And both really, it's the kind of thing where like you find people that really believe in you. A lot of times, maybe even more than you necessarily think about yourself.
Yeah.
And it takes that, and yeah, they were great. And it also, I have to say, I had really great experiences at CNN. I would say the CNN of today is very different than the CNN when I worked there. Just for people that are hearing about CNN now. But I will say, like, it's this gigantic place. I mean, thousands of people, and both Bart and Krista were really helpful in, like, you almost sometimes I would finish a day at CNN and I feel like what did I do today? Like I had these calls and things, like, you move things incrementally down the line, but they're like this giant. The way Bart would describe it is like this, like, battleship, and you're trying to, like, turn this thing. And and you can't do it alone. Like it requires lots of people and lots of buy-in, and you have to make people think that it's what's good for them to do it, and what do they get out of it. I mean, and so I'd get frustrated. Like I'd get, I would just want things to happen quickly. But they were so helpful in kind of navigating the way the world works, which is like, look, things take time. You have to have patience, and day by day, you have to, build that buy-in with people and develop relationships, and it was really valuable both in life and in just sort of a professional career, what they brought.
That's really cool. So you have one sibling.
Yes.
A sister.
Yeah.
13 years younger than you.
That's right.
So that you were put into babysitter mode quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yet this poor precious child, this little girl, you decided you were gonna break her collarbone? No. So what happened? What was that story all about?
I did. Yeah, I know. So I was an only child for like 13 years, which was great. I really enjoyed it, and then I had no idea, but it
is great. I'll let you know. Yeah.
my parents have been trying for a while. I had no idea, and so Allison came along.
It's probably good you didn't have an idea.
Right. No, I was not involved, not looped into the process. But it really worked out well. Like it was right when I didn't want to, like, have anyone paying attention to me anymore, and then it was like, oh, perfect. Now there's a new baby.
Timing. Yeah, you're a teenager now.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I say it worked out really well. I did enjoy babysitting, but I also, like, you take your eye away for a second. I think it honestly made me a little bit more of like I don't want to say like a helicopter parent, but yeah, the one time, she was like at some golf clubs on the, monkey bars or something. It was just something that should not have been happening. And I'm 6 feet away, just sort of enjoying the whole thing, and boom, falls, breaks her collarbone. I forgot how old she was at the time. Pretty young. Yeah. Embarrassed, and I just felt horrible. Definitely I'm very conscious of that now.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And, congratulations to baby sis, the guinea pig.
Yeah.
So now you keep a closer eye on Jack.
Yeah, exactly.
Has your sister ever forgiven you for that?
I think so.
That's good.
She brings it up every now and then.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. So you nearly choked to death on a grape? Is that right?
That was also babysitting. Yeah. I, this was all new to me. So I was like, I was trying to entertain her, and it actually was not even a real grape. It was a fake grape, like one of those things like you would have in like a setup of food,
a decoration or something.
Yeah. And I'm throwing it up in the air, like, this is so stupid, and pretending to catch it in my mouth. And then one time I just caught it in my mouth and went completely right down my throat. I ended up having to, like, I couldn't breathe.
No.
Ended up, like, essentially, like, throwing it up and getting out of it. But my sister, she was even younger at the time. Like, she would not be able to call 911. Like, and it was just me and her. That one she doesn't remember. But that was pretty scary.
No kidding. I mean, that... Honestly, if it makes you feel any better, that's the kind of stuff I do like every other day. I am so injury prone. And that grape in the throat sounds exactly like something I would do, especially just goofing around.
Right.
Being silly.
Exactly. Yeah, that happens.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So I love this answer when I asked the question, what's something you want to accomplish in your lifetime? So your first thought is watching Jack get married. That's noble. Yeah. Absolutely. But you want to work on your golf game as well. So how often do you get to play?
Like never.
Yeah,
never.
that's where I'm at.
No.
Man.
No, I've got a better chance of watching Jack get married than working on my golf game. I'd say.
I was going to say, yeah, that's what it feels like sometimes. It's like my kids are going to be out of the house before I play another round of golf.
Before you play, but you've been playing for a while though, right?
Yeah, but I've, a common theme. I like to injure myself, and every time I hit the ball now, my right elbow just aches for days, and it's not even worth it.
So you're out. Okay.
Yeah. Getting old sucks. That's the moral of this story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely feel that.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so you are hoping to, and remember, I sent this email months and months ago. Have you gone skydiving yet?
No, I did bring it up with Megyn recently.
Okay,
because she said that I'm not allowed.
Oh, really? Because so you sent this email to me that says you hope to skydive shortly before you had the conversation with the wife.
That must be
Must be the timing on that.
That was the goal. I still do. I would like to do that. I think it. I don't think it's like super dangerous. I'm not. The bungee jumping kind of scares me, but skydiving feels like fun. And George H.W. Bush was skydiving every year, and he was like 90 years old.
Right.
I feel like this is doable.
Now you've done scuba diving before.
I've done scuba diving.
How deep did you go?
Pretty deep. I got certified once before a family trip, and I probably went down like 30 feet, something like that. It was pretty far. I mean, it was far enough that it was like, all right, we're in the mode where you can't just like swim up as fast as you can if you get nervous or something.
Right.
You're in like, okay, take it slow. And
so what do you think is more dangerous? Scuba diving way down deep or jumping out of an airplane with a parachute?
I think scuba diving.
Yeah.
I totally.
So why don't you
That's the
take
argument?
this? I'm arming you.
That's good. That's a good.
With some, but this is a conversation you're going to have before the podcast comes out.
Right.
Or else she's going to be like, oh, I see where you got this. So you got to go home and talk to her and just kind of.
The argument, though, I'm playing her side of it. She's going to say, "I don't want you scuba diving either." The last time I was really scuba diving was right as I started dating her, and ever since then I have not. And I have to say, I was, because I've been scuba diving since then, but like 10 feet, and that's like it was cool, but it's not like 30 feet down. It is a little bit scary, like going down that far, like it because you really feel like. If something goes wrong, you're in trouble. You've got to rely on your buddy, your scuba buddy, to give you air and try to work your way up. So,
do you think that she would let you do more dangerous things once Jack is out on his own?
Maybe.
Okay, so why don't we do this? I'll just hold this podcast for
14 years.
14 years. Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
No, good luck, man. Yeah. I don't know. I think you're right, though. I think the scuba diving's got to be more.
I think
more
so.
risky.
I think so. I mean, people go skydiving all the time. You don't really hear people die. I hear actually occasionally we'll read a story about someone like having a scuba accident. You don't really hear it as much about skydiving. I think we're okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'll work on it.
Let me know if you go.
Okay.
I might join you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
That didn't take long to talk myself out of that.
No. Okay.
Okay, so you want to get to places like Ireland. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
South America, cool. Portugal kind of stood out as unique. What's so specific about Portugal that you want to go and see?
Well, Megyn and I, we've done some places in Europe. We did, Italy and England. I've been to Spain. Portugal, I've heard great things about. I've never been. It's right there. There's history there. There's the coast, which are supposed to be beautiful. Yeah, I think, that at the time I probably was sending this, I was like, all right, we're going to plan our next big trip, years from now. Portugal, Ireland, those would be like the top of my list. Italy too. I mean, I love Italy. I'm half Italian. And there's so many different like little pockets of Italy that I'd love to go that I've never been to before.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, but I'd love to just try somewhere different.
Does it ever feel like, especially if you're thinking about making these trips, does it ever feel like the world will be normal again in this COVID era? Like, when are we going to be allowed to travel? Like for example, I went to the University of Nebraska, and they have a game supposed to go on in Ireland in August of 2021, this year.
Oh, cool.
So when that schedule first came out a couple of years ago, I thought, maybe we'll go. I'll try. I'm sure it's going to be really expensive. Now I'm like, yes, let's go. I don't care. I'll pay whatever. I'll go into debt. Let's just go. I want to travel. I want to go see the Huskers in Europe. Yes. But do you ever have those moments, because I do, where it feels like, we're never going to be able to travel again, at least not in the current form. There's going to be vaccination requirements or something like that. And I just wonder if you ever think that with these travel goals that there's going to be some walls there that you don't see now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know I do. So I think that there's some things that are going to come out of this that are never going to, completely go back to normal. I think about the way people work and the way that we've been able to, do work from home and do different, Zoom related things. I think that there's going to be some major ramifications. I think that the way, obviously I was in New York City and now I'm out, but I think that same pathway, whether it's New York or LA or San Francisco, that's happening more and more. You see companies moving to Austin and Florida and,
Dallas.
Georgia, Dallas. Yeah. Yeah.
Specifically Plano.
Right. I mean, just more and more building up. I think that's going to happen more and more. But I also am optimistic about when we get to that point, whenever that is, whether it's, the most optimistic, I guess, is July, August, that the world is sort of quote unquote back to normal, maybe more like a year from now. But I do think when that happens, it's going to be everyone is going to be just going crazy with it. Right. And I think there's going to be this just relief from it, that it's going to come back even in a bigger way, travel and people are going to see look, we were just stuck essentially in our houses and for so long, if this ever happens again, I'm not going to say I didn't do X, Y, and Z, right, and let's go do it,
Yeah. Okay, so is there a one-stop shop if people want information about you out there? Would it be your Twitter page where everything's listed? That's why I figure it's easiest, in the bio. Yeah. Right? Something like that.
I don't have the website like you. I should do that. No, easy. Yeah. Well, twitter.com, Steve Krak.
Yep.
Definitely the main source there.
And that's Krak. So it's STEVEKRAK.
That's right.
Steve Krakauer.
Yeah.
Okay. And subscribe to the newsletter.
Yeah,
right?
Subscribe to the newsletter. Free. Always will be free.
Fourth Watch.
Fourth Watch. Fourthwatch.media is how you can find it. Got the podcast and the Megyn Kelly Show.
Got your podcast.
Yes.
Got the Megyn Kelly podcast.
Yeah, available anywhere you get your podcast. All free.
There you go.
Yeah.
So anything that we haven't covered that maybe you want to throw in there?
Oh man, so much. No, this was great. I appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Steve Krakauer. Check him out on Twitter. Steve Krak. Thanks so much for making time, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
It was great getting to know Steve through this conversation today. He was one of those coworkers that I never really crossed paths with in our time together at the Blaze, so I was so grateful for the chance to really get to know him, and I'm glad you were able to as well. Next week, I sit down with Jeremy Grantham, who is better known as Owl Borland to those who listen to the Spitballers comedy podcast or the Fantasy Footballers podcast, two favorites of mine. I hope you'll join me for that conversation next week. Until then, be sure to check out atthemicshow.com. We've got archive shows, sponsorship info, and ways to connect. There's also a donate button if you would like to help this podcast in any way you can. As always, thank you so much for spending time with me right here on At the Mic.
This has been At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production. Look for At the Mic Show on Twitter to connect.